Hey guys, I'm Nate. Welcome back to the outside of the workshop. We've got another random experiment today we're trying, and this one is brought to us by YouTuber Elite Fusion Z, who asks, what does liquid nitrogen do inside of the Backyard Foundry? Elite Fusion Z, we think this is a great idea. Well, let's let the furnace heat up for a few minutes, and then let's open it up, and once it's really good and hot, we'll pour in some liquid nitrogen and see what happens. Our furnace is getting nice and hot. I have a thermos full of liquid nitrogen and this metal cup that I'm going to use as sort of an intermediary. I'm going to try a few different things. First, I'm just going to pour some liquid nitrogen from the cup down into the foundry, and then I'm going to see what happens if I pour liquid nitrogen into the cup and then carefully lower the whole cup full of liquid nitrogen down into the foundry as well. Let's see the difference. Quick note, I want to apologize for any background noise. There's some construction going on, and you might be hearing some of the sounds from that. All right, a cup of boiling, roiling liquid nitrogen. Well, here goes nothing. I think it's just gonna make a lot of vapor. But I admit, I don't know for sure. 3, 2, 1. Huh, check this out. So that bottom just turned black. And I think that's just because it cooled it down so much that it lost all its glow. Let's just pour a little bit more on and see if the same thing happens. So it just dissipates, but it definitely cooled that down enough that it lost its orange glow for a second. Doesn't take a ton either. So it definitely did something. It cooled down the board that's at the bottom of our furnace. But overall, it wasn't very eventful. It just splashes in, it dissipates very quickly, but it's so hot that you don't even see any of the vapors that you normally see rising off of liquid nitrogen. Let's see what happens if we just put our whole cup full of liquid nitrogen down inside the furnace. All right, I'm gonna have to be pretty quick about this because otherwise it's gonna start burning my hand, but here we go. 3, 2, 1. Well, that is some very actively boiling liquid. Oh, it's still cooling it down on the bottom. I think it's just the nitrogen vapors, and you can't see nearly as much flame. So I think the nitrogen vapor is filling up the furnace a little bit, and it's really subduing it. Mostly it's just boiling away. Nitrogen's running pretty low. That cup has some very, very hot parts and some very, very cold parts on it. That's interesting, because you know the bottom of that cup is still freezing cold, even though the edges of the cup are now glowing orange. I think it's a steel cup, so it should be fine, but it's pretty thin-walled steel. I'm amazed that any liquid nitrogen is still in there. That's very impressive to me that it's lasted this long. Oh, looks like we're just about out, and gone. Whew. And that is one hot cup, and I'm just gonna splash some liquid nitrogen on it and see what happens. Well, I guess from the point of view of liquid nitrogen, this cup has always been super hot. I don't know, it's several hundred degrees hotter right now though. No, even the bottom of the cup is burning hot. Well, once again, not terribly remarkable. The liquid nitrogen in the cup, in the furnace, it boiled faster than normal, and it did darken a little bit the bottom of this furnace, so it was clearly doing something. There weren't as many flames as visible, but overall, not a huge effect from liquid nitrogen in the furnace. There's a couple other variations I want to try. First, let's see what happens if we have a cup of water in the furnace, and we pour some liquid nitrogen down into that cup. All right, this is a cup of regular tap water. Throw that in our furnace. We get a little bit of that same darkening effect, just not nearly as much as with the liquid nitrogen. Now we'll have to see how accurately I can pour using tongs and a metal cup from about a foot up. We'll try and pour this liquid nitrogen down into that cup of water. Liquid nitrogen pouring into water. 3, 2, 1. Well, it certainly did something. There's still just a little bit of it on the surface of the water. That water, at least part of it, is boiling hot already. That is the fastest I've ever boiled water right there. It's pretty nuts. Let's try it again. That does look pretty cool. I think the biggest effect is that it splashed a lot of the water out of the cup, and that landed on the inside of the furnace. Well, there you have it. Liquid nitrogen into the furnace, not super exciting. Liquid nitrogen in a cup in the furnace, also not super exciting. Liquid nitrogen into water in the furnace, more exciting. The water heated up very quickly, and so I was pouring liquid nitrogen into boiling water surrounded by a ton of heat. We did get a big plume of vapor coming off because of that, but it still wasn't anything that was really amazing. So I think we need to scale this up to something a little bit more volatile. We've tried freezing gasoline in liquid nitrogen before. So now let's take a cup of liquid nitrogen, pour some gasoline into it till it freezes solid, and then lower the whole thing, liquid nitrogen and frozen gasoline, down into our foundry. We'll see what that does. I'm just gonna pour it from this cup into the liquid nitrogen. Very thick white vapor comes off of that. Just want a fair amount of frozen gasoline in there. This is going to be a little bit of a set and run because the frozen gasoline does tend to be pretty volatile, so we'll see how this goes. The liquid nitrogen is still covering the frozen gasoline, so we might have to wait for a little bit of it to boil off before the gasoline ignites. Here we go. Well, there's little specks igniting in the air above the vapor of the liquid nitrogen. There's little, kind of looks like fireflies or fairy lights or something. Oh, there we go. Hey, now we have sort of a fire tornado in a furnace. I think at this point it's just burning a cup full of gasoline, which is fun. There's still some boiling going on the surface. I don't know if any of that's liquid nitrogen or if that's just pure gasoline in the cup at this point. That's a lot of thick black smoke. I'm gonna try putting the lid back on. Well, that didn't help it at all. Kill the propane. It's still gonna keep burning because there's, you know, a cup of gasoline in there. But yeah, it's still just boiling in there. All right, I think it's now out. There's our cup that was full of liquid nitrogen and gasoline, and now it's full of nothing. Well, there you have it, liquid nitrogen in a furnace. Not terribly reactive until you add gasoline, of course, and then it goes about as you'd expect. It's kind of just like lighting a cup of gasoline on fire in a furnace, which is pretty fun. I hope I shouldn't have to say this, but don't try this at home. Partly because it's unsafe to burn cups full of gasoline, but more so because it's really kind of a waste of liquid nitrogen. There are a lot of more entertaining things that can be done with liquid nitrogen rather than pouring them into a furnace. Elite Fusion Z, thank you for your suggestion. Check your YouTube inbox, we'll be sending you 25 bucks. If you've got a great idea for an experiment, let us know down in the comments, and if we use your idea for a video, we'll send you $25. Thanks for joining us for this experiment today, and remember to come gear yourself up with products and merch at thekingofrandom.com. See you there. This KO wool was so nice and white when I started this experiment. Look at that. That's what it was. Now it's all black.
Hey guys, thank you for your comments. So many of you have really interesting suggestions for projects and experiments, and we love testing those out for you. I also wanted to say thank you for the great feedback you're leaving for me and my team, because we're all in this together. So thank you for being on our team.